we all have a skill. We all have a talent. We don't know what it is. Like the one big thing that I tell all my clients is we have a 400 trillion to one shot of actually being born. So if you're at 400 trillion to one odds of actually being born, when you get here, do you honestly think that God, the creator, universe, whatever, he said, you know what, man, you got a 1 in 400 chance, well, 400 trillion chance of getting here. I'm gonna make you a UPS driver. That's what I'm gonna make you. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with having that position, but we all in life, there's something bigger for each of us. We need
Yes.
to figure out what it is. God created all of us to grow. God didn't create us to be comfortable. And that's why I go back with this whole brief empowerment theory thing, because most people make the mistake of thinking that what has been will always be. And you now become comfortable at this point.
Hmm.
You're not saying to yourself, I'm willing to stretch. It's like being in the comfort zone. I'm not gonna go out of my comfort zone because I don't need to. I'm fine right here. Even though you might be an award-winning actor, but you wouldn't know because you were afraid to open the door. Let me give you an example of that. Like, I think we talked about this offline before. I was telling you about that gentleman, Danny Trejo. And like I said, Danny, the guy's worth over $12 million. He's he owns two restaurants in LA, you know, acting over 400 movies. But before that, he spent 11 years in maximum security prisons. Like I said, the guy was in Soledad, San Quentin, Folsom. You know, he could have chosen to stay there, but he chose to shift his perspective. He made that decision because there are a lot of people that have just simply gone, they go back. I mean, in the prison system, there's something called recidivism. And the whole thing about it is that means it's the propensity to go back to prison after you've been released. You know, I mean, you have a 44% chance of going back to prison after 1 year release. And that shoots up to 78% if you have for 5 years. Danny could have gone that route, but he chose to look at the grief that he experienced while in prison, and he coupled that with the grief that was in his brain of going through his experience. And remember what I talked about in physics. It the law of conservation of energy, energy can never die. So he took that outside grief, coupled with the grief in his brain, he fused that together so that it can be manipulated. And he ended up repurposing all of that negative energy into a fuel that allowed him to be a man worth over $12 million. Again, it's our but it started with him making a choice.
Hmm.
That's why I say that no matter what has happened to us, it is our choices. It's very easy for circumstance to lead us to believe that we can't do it. But that's not the case. It's that we don't want to do it. And I hate to sound that way, but that is the truth. We choose not to want to do it.
Yeah. That's so powerful too, because I feel like often grief can do something to a person's psychology where you feel like, or where we feel like we don't deserve to be happy. We want to stay stuck in this sad space because that's what we feel like we've earned. But then, if like you were mentioning before, we take the time to honor the relationship of the person that we lost that also loved us by taking care of ourselves. Like you did that with your daughters by learning how to cook and going from someone who couldn't boil water, as you said, to being this amazing chef that your wife
No,
would have been
I ain't no
proud
chef.
of,
I ain't no
or
chef, girl. Don't do
cook.
that. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying? But but you know what? No, but being serious, right? It's you know what? I'm just proud of where I've come from in that respect. You know, like you said, I mean, from being a guy that didn't know what to do to learning over time that I can do something. And this is what I tell all my clients. See, there is an extreme learning curve, and it's a painful one. But on the other side, it's agreeing to walk out of the door of the comfort zone. And you know, when you walk out the door, it's gonna be chaos. But when you keep walking, well, eventually the chaos ceases and it becomes a brighter day. But you would never know that if you didn't agree to open up the door to your comfort zone and walk out of it.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying my bottom line is that's what I let people know is that you have the capacity to change. You now have to have the desire to change, you know. And again, don't get me wrong, there may be some mental issues that people are going through. I'm not discounting mental health at all. You know, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the the average person that goes through some form of challenge, it doesn't automatically make it a mental issue. It it it's an emotional issue that they need to learn how to walk through to keep it from becoming a mental issue. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yes. But if we don't deal with things, they build
Correct.
up. And you
Correct.
can't, we don't want to be in a position where we're sitting and we're grieving and we're not living. I know something I dealt with my mom was she would always say, because she was in and out of the hospital a while before she passed, and she would say to me, because I had taken a lot of time off work, and I would work at the hospital with my laptop, and she'd say, "You can't stop living." And and then she would say, "Give yourself a hug and a kiss for me." But I think like one point that you mentioned earlier that I thought was so important was it that it's important. You said that it's important to grieve, like we need to grieve and to mourn, but you can't, at some point, you have to make a decision to move forward. Like in your grieving, in your mourning, if especially if you've lost a child and you have other children, you you still have to be a parent to those children. You
Correct.
still have to feed yourself and love yourself and honoring the person that you lost by loving yourself and maintaining those other relationships with people.
Veronica, the truth of the matter is that we can put ourselves into a much more difficult circumstance
Mm.
if we don't decide to move forward. And again, we have to make sure that we don't misconstrue moving forward with moving on. You know, you'll never forget what you've lost. You know, I mean, it's, may have been a job loss, may have been a spouse, may have been a child. You'll never forget that. But moving forward allows you to find what was in that circumstance that worked to your advantage. You know,
Mm.
even if we lose a child or a spouse, the the loss is not the advantage. It's what you learned from the loss that
To honor
becomes
that
the
person.
advantage.
Yes. You said the loss is not the advantage, but what we learn from the loss is the
Correct.
advantage in
Correct.
honoring that person that's gone by
Correct.
learning from the loss
Correct.
or or the relationship that's gone.
Correct. I mean, from basically from whatever negative circumstance that happened, find something in it that was a benefit. I think I said this to you before. There's a there's always a blessing hidden in the broken pieces.
Mm.
And it's, you know, you gotta just look for that lesson. It's not gonna be easy to find. It's gonna be like a needle in a haystack. But you don't stop looking for the needle. You know what I'm saying? Just because there's a lot of hay around. You just have to you have to you have to spend time understanding that it's going to be a challenge, but it's a challenge worth me pursuing because the alternative is having that challenge control me and me falling victim to whatever the challenge wants to do to me. And that challenge, that challenge is not going to be nice to you. So that grief is not going to be nice to you. So instead of staying in that grievous situation, you can tell yourself, I'm going to figure out how to, again, move forward, not move on. I'm going to gather strength. And the easiest way to gather strength from the circumstance is to learn how to honor the person that you have lost, the thing you have lost. I'll say this real quick. People are like, how can you honor a divorce? How can you honor a breakup? I'm like, no, you're not understanding. You're not honoring that part of it. If, put it this way, say you get divorced. If somebody walks off on you, guess what? They have opened the door for someone to cherish you the way you should be cherished. So instead of looking at the victim side of it, oh, why did he leave me? Why she leave me? Look at the fact that thank yeah, I appreciate you opening the door for me, man. I'm there, there's gonna be some woman or some man that's gonna treat me way better than you did. And what's interesting about that is in retrospect, when you respect yourself to a point where you're willing to say, you know what, this is what I deserve. You feel better. And consequently, guess what happens? The other person comes around and they're like, man, she looked good. Man, he looked good. I, I can't believe I gave them up. But It was because when you were in this relationship, you made that relationship all about the other person, not really about yourself. And then when that relationship discontinued, you had a choice. Your choice was to, you know what? I'm never going to be the same now that he's gone, now that she's gone. Or I'm going to be so much better now that she's gone, now that he's gone. It's choice. With that being said, that it's any situation comes down to our decisions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jay, for taking the time to meet with and share with us today. I was so excited when you agreed to come on. I am such a huge fan and advocate of everything that you're doing with grief counseling.
Thank you, Veronica. First off, I mean, like I said, I truly appreciate the fact that there are people out there who, are giving me a platform to speak on. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Yes, I said grief counseling, but grief counseling, grief coaching, and it's my
With grief
pleasure.
coaching, yes.
Yes,
Hey,
let's.
no problem.
I did want to mention too, for anyone who's watching this podcast or listening to this podcast and they are feeling stuck and or paralyzed by their grief and they're ready to move forward and they don't have to do it alone, how would they reach out to services? And I will make sure to link your information below also.
Okay. Well, you know what? My website is JL the number 3 motivation.com. And if you want, you can email me at jlewis LEWISIII at jlewis motivation.com.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you, Jay, for joining us. I'll look forward to having you back again soon. And Jay's
Thank you.
information is below. If you want to give him a contact, he is an amazing grief coach and person. I'm so glad that we've had the opportunity to connect. I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everything, Veronica. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay. Take care. See you soon.
Bye bye.